Recording in progress.
Give me a second.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
No, I've been doing this for 7 years. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Here you go. All right. I'd like to call to order the May 13th, 2026 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Georgette, would you please call the roll?
Yes. First, before calling the roll, I'd like to welcome our newly appointed director, Lily Diego Johnson, to our meeting. She's sitting directly to my left. And she will be participating in this meeting and will have the opportunity to make comments. She will not be voting on any matters because the vote to actually add her to this committee will not happen until our regular board meeting. But to our new director, Diego Johnson, welcome. We are glad you are here with us today at CTA. Now for the roll, Director Nima Jah. Yes. Chairman Barclay.
Here.
Director Jakes.
Here.
Director Eady.
Here.
Director Eady, you do have a quorum. And I did just say Director Eady, you have a quorum. Director Jakes, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
And also,
I would love to be here.
right, I would ask that Director Nima Jah would move to admit Director Rekeho into the meeting, who is remote because of work obligations.
Second.
It's been moved that we admit Director Roberto Rekeho to the meeting remotely because he could not be here physically in person due to work obligations. And it's been seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Jah?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Ortiz, we're voting on admitting Director Rekeho?
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes.
Our next order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of April 8th, 2026. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Jah, seconded by Director Eady, that we approve the minutes from the last meeting of April 8th, 2026. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Jah?
Yes.
Director Ortiz? Yes. Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Rekeho, are you with us? Director Jakes, you do have the votes to pass that motion. We're still awaiting Director Rekeho's technical entrance.
Okay. Well, we will continue. Our next order of business is the finance report. Tom McComb.
Thank you. Good morning, directors.
Great.
Morning.
Okay, give me a moment while I share the report on the screen. Okay, I'm going to walk you through the monthly financial reports for the month of March. The year-to-date results will be through March, so they'll reflect the first quarter of the year when we go through those. Okay, on the system generated revenue side of things, what you can see is that we're coming in pretty much right at the budgeted level. On the fare and pass side of things, we did budgeted increase as we expect ridership to increase this year, and we are seeing that slight increase consistent with the budgeted level there. Non-fare box revenue slightly below what we anticipated, but pretty close to the budgeted level. You roll it together, we're about $200,000 below budgeted level, about $38 million for the month. We roll that forward for the first quarter, year to date. Again, same trend continues there, sort of moderate growth of fare and pass revenue, non-fare box revenue coming in pretty much as we expected to, a little bit of softness there, but total revenues within 0.5% of the budgeted level at around $104 million through the first quarter. On the expense side of things, here you'll see that the conclusion is the same. We have a little bit more variability within the categories. We saw some labor savings in the month of March that offsets negative variance that we saw in materials. We do think there's some seasonality with those material purchases, and that should be coming back closer to the budgeted level as we proceed through into the second quarter. Fuel, slightly negative to budget. As you know, we are hedged and locked in on most of our fuel purchases. The part that we're floating is more expensive, but we're saving close to $1 a gallon by hedging our fuel prices. So we're well contained within that fuel line. That's more than offset within the utility category by the power savings. You can see here the rates that we're receiving with the ComEd credit are giving us additional savings on the power line so far in the first quarter. Security services is coming in ahead of budget. This is consistent with the security plan. This will remain ahead of budget until we move forward with an amended budget projected to bring to this board next month. Other expenses coming in pretty much right at the budgeted level. So total 1.1 million positive to budget off $190 million for the month. Year to date, very similar trends continuing here. $552 million budgeted expenses, 2.7 million favorability against that. So again, within 0.5% of what we had budgeted for the first quarter so far on the expenses line. Public funding coming in strong. The initial results that we have here in the first month or two of the first quarter. So good trend overall in terms of sales tax, the associated PTF, real estate transfer tax coming in right at the budgeted level, but overall 9.5 million favorable to budget through some of these early results this year. So good to see those results. We'll definitely bank them for the rest of the year. On the commodity side of things, no changes here, but we are looking to lock in more of our natural gas purchases later on this year. So you will see some movement there as we look to put out an RFP later this year for natural gas purchases. And that concludes my update on the financials for March. Happy to answer any questions.
Guys, all of that. Just thank you. No question. Dina?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, never mind. I do have a question. Can we go back to the revenue information real quick?
Yeah.
Are you concerned about the trend? I think month after month, it seems like that spread is getting thinner and thinner. What's the plan for the rest of the year? How are you guys projecting?
For revenues, well, let me look at the year-to-date numbers there. So variance to budget, we're very close, right? You can see we're 0.2% away from what we had budgeted year-to-date. So I'm not really concerned about that variance because we more than capture that with expense savings that we have. Non-fare box revenue, we projected it would come in lower than last year. That's why you see that year-to-date number lower than last year. That's as projected. Investment income is going to be lower this year. That's why it's closer to the budgeted amount. Fare and pass revenue, we did project growth on that, and so we are seeing that growth, but we're kind of right at that level. You can see here again this year the trend towards passes versus fare box is continuing. We'll watch it closely. I think this is a good place to be in the first quarter, kind of right at that budgeted level. Obviously, we'd like to see it a little bit stronger, but I think this is more than contained this is an offset of its expense savings.
So is on the non-fare box, are there any strategy? Are you looking at anything? Like, what's the rationale behind that?
Yeah, so you'll see an ordinance that I'm going to bring to the board as my next item to increase non-fare box revenue in the second half of this year. What we are seeing is that some of the national advertisers are not spending as robustly as we had predicted this year. Part of that has to do with the fact that they are focusing their advertising dollars on World Cup cities. And so from our advertising partners, we're hearing that they're selecting a lot of the cities that are hosting the World Cup for those investments. And so then, we're not able to participate in that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions from other members of the board? Director Ortiz?
None, thank you.
Chairman Barclay?
No questions.
Director Jakes? You already passed. Director Eady?
No question.
Director Diego Johnson?
Questions.
Director Jake, there are no further questions.
Director Requejo is on now.
Good morning, Director Requejo. Do you have any questions regarding the finance report that Tom McCone just gave?
I do not. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
Our next agenda item is number 4, is the review of an ordinance authorizing introduction of a bulk discount rate for 7 park and ride facilities. Tom.
Great, thanks. As I mentioned, I'm presenting for your consideration an ordinance authorizing a monthly discounted parking rate for customers who purchase 10 or more spaces a month at any of 7 CTA park and ride facilities. Bulk discounts for customers booking multiple monthly spaces are common throughout the industry, but have not previously been offered at CTA park and rides. Bulk rate will be 15% off of the regular monthly rate, which varies by lot. CTA is committed to maximizing efficiencies by leveraging its assets, and this is another way in which we can increase system-generated revenues. We have seen interest from employers in a program like this. The lots are all large enough to accommodate bulk reservations and all have excess capacity. They've been identified because they have an average occupancy rate that is less than 50% currently. Staff anticipates the bulk rate will offer a convenient option for corporate customers, drive occupancy at the 7 park and ride lots, and increase non-fare box revenue to the CTA. If approved, the new rates will take effect June 1st. This concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, I don't have any questions, Tom. Thank you.
Director Ja,
No questions, thank you.
Director Ortiz,
No, thank you.
Chairman Barclay.
How many park and ride lots do we have?
We have 16 park and ride lots. So this will be offered at the 7 lots that have an occupancy rate that is under 50%. So they've got capacity currently to offer a program like this.
And how do we market to businesses that you said for the bulk rate?
Yeah, so we plan on publishing this pretty widely and using our partners to do that as well. We've been in contact with employers in advance of offering a program like this because, as I mentioned, employers have reached out for ways in which they could purchase additional spaces at our lots. And so we'll plan on pushing this out to a larger and broader set of employers.
Thank you.
Director Eady,
No question.
Director Diego Johnson,
No questions.
Director Raquel,
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
Ma'am, I have leave to place this on the omnibus for board approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady to place this item on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja, Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Eady,
Yes.
Director Raquel.
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed.
Agenda item 5 is the review of an ordinance authorizing an amendment of a lease with Pullman Gateway LLC, property located at 11203 South Corliss Avenue, Chicago, for the RLE project. Bill Mooney.
Morning, Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Gulf State staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to a lease agreement with Pullman Gateway LLC for property located at 11203 South Corliss Avenue for the Red Line Extension Project. CTA leases office space for the project to support management and execution of construction at this location. Property is owned by Pullman Gateway, and the parties wish to amend the lease to convert the term from a 2-year term with 4 additional 1-year options to extend to a 5-year term ending February 28th, 2031. With the adjustment of the lease term, CTA will be granted the right to terminate the lease with 6 months' notice. Separately, this amendment will incorporate adjacent unleased parking at a monthly rate of $3,500. All their terms remain the same. I'm happy to take any questions on this item.
Bill.
We'll take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja,
Questions.
Director Ortiz,
No questions. Thank you.
Chairman Barclay,
Questions.
Director Eady,
No questions.
Director Diego Johnson,
No questions.
Director Raquel,
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
May I now have leave to place this on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that this item be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Eady.
Yes.
Director Raquel.
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 6.
Agenda item 6 is the review of an ordinance amending ordinance 006-75, which govern rules regarding public performances on CTA property. Bill Mooney and Molly Parker.
Good morning again. I am Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer, and I'm joined by
Molly Poppy, Chief Planning and Innovation Officer.
staff recommends approval of an ordinance amending ordinance number 006-75 to expand the CTA's ability to solicit and contract with community organizations and local individuals for the establishment of a temporary art installations, commitments for performance art, and other community-driven cultural activations. CTA desires to make its stations and terminals more welcoming spaces for its customers and believes the inclusion of community art and other activations will improve the customer experience and help improve the overall sense of security at CTA facilities. This amendment will expand CTA's ability to support performance art and temporary public art activations throughout the service area. At least once per year, CTA will identify locations that are available for activation, which will be posted on the CTA website, advertised at selected locations, and shared with community organizations to solicit interest from potential partners. Interested partners will submit a proposal outlining the nature of their activation, the dates they are proposing, budget, and other pertinent information. Performance art and temporary public art activations throughout the service area will be available. New technology. Other pertinent information about their organization qualifications. Each solicitation will be reviewed by a committee of stakeholders who will consider and make final recommendations to the Chief Infrastructure Officer and Chief Planning and Innovation Officer, who will make the final decision on the activation. Each activation will be less than 1 year in duration and must be under $50,000 in value. The inaugural locations for this year are 95th Street Red Line Station, Damon Green Line Station, Damon Pink Line Station, and Kimball Brown Line Station. We'll be happy to take any questions on this item.
No, I don't have any questions. That's kind of what's going on downstairs, right?
Yes, it is similar to what the music is playing downstairs today. We have Mandala, they are a jazz organization, Southeast Asian jazz organization. They are playing downstairs. We are having them on the system as part of a separate program that we have going with Elevated Chicago and MacArthur Foundation. So Mandala will be playing at 6 different Red Line stations this summer.
When you talked about this yesterday and the thought ran across my mind, I don't want to belabor it. We maybe talk about it offline, but I thought about how often I'm in New York. And every time I go to the subway, I don't go to the subway to ride the subway. I go to the subway to see the artists in the subway. And 3 times I've caught celebrity artists down there just doing pop-ups. I know we had, Madam President, you did something with Chance. Mm-hmm. We thought about reaching out to those celebrities from Chicago, like Common and maybe engaging them to do a pop-up that's kind of a known pop-up. As part of this, and we don't have to discuss it now, but just kind of as a thought.
Yeah, I think, there's definitely really good opportunities for us to think through Chicago celebrities, both artists, celebrities, as well as we're going to leverage President Obama and the Presidential Center opening. So I do think that there's opportunities there. We do also have, as part of this ordinance, this has been approved for probably 20 years now, the ability at subway stations in downtown for individuals to get a permit from us and play downtown. We don't pay for that in the way, or don't fund that in the way that we would under this ordinance, but we do have some of those opportunities. So we can definitely continue to think about that and think through how to use local Chicago celebrities.
Because Lester Barclay used to be very white before very white. I'm sure that you pull him out of retirement. I have no further questions.
I would just add, you're speaking my language there. I think I'm very passionate about that type of work on CTA and across all scales, from local artists like Mandala that we're seeing to larger celebrities related to Chicago. Chance was kind of our first big foray into that area, but there's a lot in the mix. I would also mention sports teams and, things we'll be announcing even in the coming months that I think will excite people.
Good.
We'll take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja?
No questions, thank you.
Director Ortiz?
Just comments, really appreciative. I think everyone knows my commitment to the arts, my stress in just making sure that everyone enjoys the experiences. And I think music and art really help create that. So thank you for pushing that and moving that along.
Chairman Barclay?
I agree. I think this is fresh. I think this is good. This is the direction that I think we want to go in. I think, it sort of brings the temperature down sometimes too. I'm patting my feet down in the subway too and enjoying that. So I think when you hear music and, it's good music. And I don't sing like Barry White, but I do play a little saxophone. Be out there with a cup.
Next month, we'll put you all in the lobby and you could do it.
Do not make me sing.
Yes.
No one is protesting at that point either, you know.
Director Eady?
Yeah, I just want to know with the 4 locations, first of all, great idea. With the four locations, what was your process to identify those 4? Why those 4 as a novel?
So we looked at kind of a collection of things. One, whenever we do anything, we try and make sure that we represent the system as a whole. So we tried to have locations that are spread kind of between the north, south, west side of the system. We tried to identify locations that we knew we had adequate space to accompany any type of installation. That, you know, these are some of the biggest plazas, open area stations that we have had successful other events in, or we know we have the ability and footprint to be able to support this type of activation, especially for this first time we're doing things like this. So if we're going to go through a learning curve, we want to make sure we facilitate our base core of allowing our customers to enter and exit stations in a safe manner and run service around that while being able to create space for this type of incubation. And then separate from that, these were areas that we also had previously had other community organizations reach out, expressing interest over the years, saying, hey, have you ever thought about, or would you entertain? So we knew that there was some support within the community to be able to pursue opportunities here. So we thought these would be good ones to start off with, kind of as a learning curve,
Right.
and grow from.
Okay. And is there like a next phase to it, meaning identified already what might be the next group of sites?
So we've talked a little bit about maybe towards the end of this year, actually putting out a solicitation that says, we've done this first round, tell us where you'd like to see the next round, right? And get some, if there are community organizations and artists that are out there that say, hey, I'd really like to do it over at 35th on the Orange Line, that we can weigh those inputs as we get the next round of solicitations going out. And then we'd make our judgments from there. Again, we'd probably look to make sure we balance the system so that all communities have some representation in there. And depending on how popular it is, we'll set up the number of how many we want to do, right? So if we have an overpowering amount of interest in these locations, we may be able to do some different things. So.
And then I heard you talk about the stakeholders, the committee that will review this. How did you identify them? What's the process there?
Yeah, so we identified individuals both that have subject matter expertise. So like folks from operations will be involved because they obviously understand the facilities and understand the needs of the particular locations. But then we also have individuals from our arts team as well on Bill's side who are very involved in the arts community, understand sort of up and coming art and cultural experiences. So we really tried to have a balance of both sort of operational and what the needs are of the agency, as well as folks that have a strong understanding of art. And then we also have folks from like our community, our GCR team that will be there. So we're really trying to get a mix also across the agency to give a diverse feedback on what performances we should do.
Are you open for recommendations in any way?
Yeah, so if you have organizations that we should share this information with, please do share it with us, and we'll make sure that they get the guidelines, application, and go through that process. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Director Diego Johnson?
Yeah, so will there be a specific outreach made to disability arts and the inclusion of disability culture? I think often that is overlooked because of just the people not being aware that there is such a thing as disability culture and disability arts.
Yeah, if you have, I think that's a great recommendation. If you have organizations that you suggest that we reach out to, please do share it with us. We also do plan to share it with our ADA advisory committee as well, which we know has strong links throughout the community. But if you do have organizations, I think that's great. And we will 100% share and work with those organizations. Yeah.
Director Requeijo?
Just joining my colleagues in thanking the team. I particularly want to acknowledge that 9 years ago, Director Ortiz and I approached CTA for the first time to offer a joint programming, activation, arts and culture as part of Elevated Chicago. And the response was a long list of reasons why not to do that, and all the risks and all the problems and all the issues. And while eventually and slowly we made some progress, it was hard. And in the process, I learned all the legitimate reasons sometimes that exist that prevent operations of arts, culture, and things we really want to see in our stations. So there's a lot of invisible work that happens for this to be now signature program, I hope. And I wanted to thank you both and your teams for putting all the effort in making this happen. And that said, I want to go in the complementary, not opposite, direction of Director Jakes and say there is an inordinate amount of talent in our communities, artistic, cultural, storytellers, musicians, all kinds. And so I wanted to double down on the question on how do we ensure that particularly around those 4 first stations, everyone who wants to do something creative, wholesome, family-friendly, safe around those stations or in those stations know about this? And how do we lower as much as we can the barriers for people to apply? Because I know you're trying to make this easy, but for a local artist having to fill out yet another lengthy application can be taxing. So how do we ensure, or how are you planning to do the outreach to our community-based, sometimes unknown and often amazing artists? And how do we ensure that the responses from the committee are not just no, yes? If there is a no, is a no, and this is why, and it's more of a negotiation. So I just wanted to hear more about what the experience of the potential applicants, artists, and cultural workers is going to be.
So I think the most important piece about reducing the barrier to entry is that we would be funding the artists. I think that is one of the most critical components of how we are reducing that barrier to entry. Oftentimes what we found in some of our other programming is there's a lack of funding in order to be able to present their art or present their performance. And so I think that's one of the critical ways that we're really thinking about reducing the barrier to entry. On the engagement side, we're attending arts and culture tables that we have around the city. Staff is going to that and sitting and talking about how artists can do work on CTA. We also plan to do outreach to the elected officials in the area as well, so that they can help us spread the word in those communities. We'll reach out to the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, DCASE, to help us spread the word. So we're really going to try a diverse way of spreading the word, both by being in person at some of these areas that artists come together and talk about art in the city and art in the region, but then also sort of doing, I would say, the more traditional outreach, which is working through elected officials, other community organizations in the area. So those are the ways that we're going to continue to foster a diverse set of applicants. And I agree that we will find ways in the feedback and why this is an ordinance and not sort of the traditional RFP process, is it does allow for a little bit more dialogue with an artist about, maybe they say, we're going to bring a full-blown rock band with pyrotechnics. And we may say, the rock band's great, pyrotechnics, not so much. So we'll be able to have some of those conversations with the artists. And I think that does then also give a little bit of that push-pull for us of allowing us to support artists and also making sure that we continue to operate safely.
I follow up. I think there was a question on application process.
So I think Molly mentioned a little bit, the reason this is coming forward as an ordinance, not part of our procurement policies as a whole, is our procurement process tends to be a little arduous, tends to be difficult. This is a more simplified submittal online form to make it easier. While it is a form, we have to have some type of intake and input, and it is a less formal kind of check and balance than the traditional, you fail to check the box, thrown out of the process. I will say, even with our professional artists that we solicit through a formal RFP process or through a straight commission, there is a lot of back and forth in the process in developing the idea and their first concepts in there, and what works, what doesn't work. And we have a lot of practice after 20 plus years of running an art program to balance the vision of an artist and the needs of our system and finding those places, right? So, I mean, I would note that one of our best pieces, in my opinion, on our system is actually a performance art piece, right? It's the extended song of our people down at 95th Street, which was a collaboration with the Astor Gates and one of his two pieces there. that went back and forth, and what his goal on that was to have the stories of the community told going for years forward. And we still activate that space on a summer basis. And there was a lot of work to figure out how to make that exist in a functional transit station, right? And so we worked with him, and our commitment is to work with all the artists to try and make a vision going forward. And while we talk about 4 installations here, the committee may come forward and say, hey, we got 3 at 95th Street. They're all one-day pop-ups that we think it'd be worth doing 3 of them, right? And that this gives us a little freedom to get into that and evolve the process around that. So
Have you reached out to any foundations for support?
So we work with MacArthur Foundation through with Elevated Chicago. So MacArthur Foundation is aware of it. As the board, if we get favorable approval of the ordinance, then we'll be able to start reaching out a little bit more to foundations and give them a little bit more opportunity if they want to support or bring us organizations to perform.
And what is the forgot one more thing. One issue that I have observed in the past with activations like these is there is a moment where the activation is going on a few days, maybe is great, there is engagement, and then that's gone, and it feels like a one-off thing without continuation. And I think the value of these is that at some point, I would love for this to be almost like an adopt a station program where the community adopts the station and they use it for a lot of things other than just as a stop, right? So how are you thinking about consistency throughout the year and avoiding these one-off things where it's just this one great day, there's this great performance, people got excited, and then it's gone for the rest of the year?
So I would say that the ordinance allows us to execute a license agreement for a year without having to come back to the board for additional authority beyond that. And so I think the goal was that we would encourage people to put forward ideas that aren't just one-off day events, that they may be curated things that occur over a series of times. Some of the work that Molly's team is doing on the pop-ups that are associated with jazz, those aren't one day, they are over multiple stations, multiple days. It's a whole rhythmic thing. And so I think we're hopeful. It will depend greatly on what comes from the community on this, but we're encouraging you to look at a broad span of opportunity here to be able to program something along that line. Some of this, again, could be performance. Some of this could be temporary art installation. It could be a rotating mural exhibit that you've worked out with a children's center around there, or community representation of, your fallen friends and family or whatever. I mean, the world is endless in art and a vision and what can be done there. And that's what's really unique about it. So I think, Director, the better and more we get out there and we get that communication, we can engage, we can look at that. I certainly think as we get those recommendations from the committee and they say, oh, we'd like to do this once and we want $2,000 for that, maybe we come back and say, would you consider doing it a monthly thing? And again, this, by doing it in this manner, it allows us to have a little bit more freedom and conversation.
Great.
Go ahead.
Director Jakes, I don't think there are any more questions or comments.
No.
there.
Director Ortiz and then Director Eady.
I bumped into someone.
Go ahead.
Okay, the 2 pagers, that's your application.
It is our application. It is 2 pages. Yeah, it is a relatively simple web form application. And it's even 2 pages because we break it out between temporary installation and performance art. So even if you look at it, it's probably even shorter than 2 pages.
Good. Yeah, it seems quite simple.
Yeah, no, thank you again for thinking through the ease applicants. One of the other great pieces about art is being able to engage with it. And so to the extent that we're looking at not just seeing art and listening to art, but actually engaging in art without necessarily being part of the curators of the actual art, I think it's a really incredible piece that to the extent that these are engaging to audiences there, writers, folks from the community who might just want to go there to be part of it as well, I think makes a huge difference. And it's not, it adds another layer of participation and engagement. So just wanted to put that out there. And so if it helps out or if there are any artists or people that want to engage in that kind of activity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Director Jakes?
I now have leave the places on the omnibus for board approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that this item be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 7, contract award recommendation.
Our next order of business is the review of contract number A1, which is a contract award for transit operations. I have no question.
Are there questions from any other members of the board? Director Ja? Director Ortiz? No. Chairman Barclay?
None.
Director Eady?
No.
Director Diego Johnson?
No.
Director Rakeo?
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may now proceed to contract numbers B1 through B4.
B1 through B4 is a contract award for infrastructure. I have no questions.
Director Ja, any questions?
Questions?
Director Ortiz? Chairman Barclay? Director Eady?
No question.
Director Diego Johnson?
No question.
Director Rakeo?
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions on those contracts. You may now proceed to contracts C1 and C2.
C1 and C2 is a contract award for finance. Can you just remind me what this is for very quickly?
Yeah, 2 awards. Sorry. Tom McCone, CFO.
I don't have my book available.
2 awards. One of them is for change order to our bulk currency processing, and then the other one is the MIT contract.
Okay, great. Right.
Okay. We'll take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja?
Not a question, but just a request in terms of looking at the last contracts and what we've been able to achieve. I think we can get a summary of like what went through in the past. That'd be helpful.
Happy to.
Director Ortiz?
Questions? Thank you.
Chairman Barclay?
No questions.
Director Eady?
No question.
Director Diego Johnson?
No questions.
Director Rakeo?
I would love it if we could offer a quick summary of the contract with MIT and other institutions, just 2 or 3 minutes so people understand, because I think it's a very valuable contract and I think the community should know about it.
Yeah, happy to. And this is a contract, a partnership that we've had in place for a while. Of note, with this contract that we're bringing forward, MIT, it's a formal sort of establishment of the partnership, not only with MIT, but also with UIC as well, because they're now a sub-awardee as part of this contract as well. What it does is it allows us to tap into sort of the knowledge that not only we get from a premier sort of transit research institution like MIT, but also the premier transportation research center at UIC and a lot of the local knowledge that they have as well. All the students work directly on site with staff here at CTA working on projects that have sort of direct application. The board has seen some of these, like the Value of Transit project that was brought forward a couple of years ago, but they work on up to 6 projects throughout the academic year, support the students as they go through it. The students work directly with staff here. Sometimes the staff can be co-authors on academic papers that are published. And importantly, this can serve as a talent pipeline for talent into the agency.
Great, thanks. I wanted to point out that local partnership with UIC, because as much as I respect MIT, that perspective from our local university is going to be instrumental. So thanks for informing and clarifying.
Thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may now proceed to contract G1.
G1 is contract award for technology. No questions.
We'll take questions from other members of the board. Director Ja?
I do have a question on this one. Can we get a little bit more information about the age of where we are in terms of the Oracle and what modernization efforts are maybe in the plan, just so we know if this is going to be a continuation, or do we have plans to modernize this?
So we did start using Oracle in 2000.
1 second, if you could just introduce yourself so we can have it as a matter of record for our transcripts.
Sorry. Ellen McCormick, Vice President, Purchasing and Supply Chain. Ellen McCormick, Vice President, Purchasing and Supply Chain.
Carolyn Gallagher, Chief Technology Officer.
So we did start using Oracle in 2001. One of the things about this particular procurement is it's no longer a sole source because they do have resellers. So Oracle will enter into agreements with other companies like Mythix, and it allows them to sell their products. So we are able to do it competitively. That's what this procurement is doing. It's a bridge. So we will go out again for other resellers. So we will stay with Oracle pursuant to this procurement.
In terms of your question about modernization, so in addition to this just being a maintenance and support renewal, we're also purchasing an audit vault and database firewall module that is a security. It's come from one of the assessments that we did in cybersecurity to strengthen our position. We're also including a modern budgeting tool, which is Oracle's Enterprise Performance Management System that is integrated with the back end of the financials. So those are, some of the ways that we are modernizing this suite.
Okay, so I know this is 25 years old. And I saw there's a lot of customization that you guys have done, which creates monolithic legacy, very hard to decouple from.
Mm-hmm.
How are we thinking about not creating a lot more dependency, continuing on this platform and maintaining the legacy infrastructure?
Yes, so.
Do you guys have any plan of like a different tech stack? Is this a long-term investment and for how long?
Absolutely. So every time we come up for renewal, we look at other products as well as other versions of Oracle. And Oracle has a cloud version that we are very interested in. And what we would do is we would work with all our stakeholders in finance and supply chain and all the different areas to make sure that the business processes represented by the new version fit our business needs. And you're right on point about the customizations. Those are customizations for the union, work rules and pay rules that are required in order to operate the business. And so when we look at different products and different versions, we're very careful to make sure that those products and versions fit those business requirements, because gaps in them introduce risk and cost and inefficiency. So yeah, we do. We make sure that everything that we're looking at in these new versions is a fit and a good fit for our business.
So I guess the question really is your strategy to continue to double down on the legacy infrastructure, or are you looking at modernizing it, was the question? I mean,
yes,
that you're looking at it, but what's the...
We're looking at the modernized version, the cloud version is called Oracle Fusion. And that is something where we are looking into as, we need to continue the support and maintenance that we currently have to buy us time so that we can really evaluate those business processes.
Got it. Do you have a timeline in mind in terms of when have a decision made?
It's going to be a large effort because Oracle does have a big footprint with our business. So it's going to be multiple years, but the work to actually do this study is starting.
So you don't have a timeline in mind?
I do not have a specific end date, but I can tell you it will be multiple years.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
We'll take questions from other members of the board. Director Ortiz.
I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Chairman Barclay.
No questions.
Director Eady.
No questions.
Director Diego Johnson.
No question.
Director Requejo.
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions, and there are no further contracts for consideration.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, may I have leave to place the 8 contracts on the omnibus?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that the 8 contracts be placed on the omnibus. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz? Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Requejo?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Since there's no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that the board approve that the committee recommend the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Requejo?
Yes.
Director Jakes, the motion passes.
Finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that the Committee for Finance, Audit, and Budget of the Chicago Transit Authority Board adjourn their meeting today at 10:15. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Rakeho?
Yes.
Director Jakes, the motion passes.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Chairman Barclay, we just need a 4-minute break for the order.
No problem.
Motion to admit him into the meeting remotely.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that Director Roberto Requejo be admitted into the meeting remotely. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja, Director Ortiz.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Eady.
Yes.
Director Diego Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we proceed with board business, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and welcome a new member to our board, Lily Diego Johnson, who was appointed by Mayor Johnson. Director Diego Johnson is a licensed clinical therapist with a focus on disability affirming care, where she helps individuals navigate the complexities of our mental health system. Ms. Diego Johnson extends that work outside of her profession as a disability justice advocate, raising accessibility, awareness, and equity within all systems in our city, including public transit, which she uses regularly. Director Diego Johnson is a co-creator of the University of Illinois Chicago Disability Cultural Center, one of the first of its kind in the country. On behalf of the board, welcome, and we look forward to working with you. Director Diego Johnson, would you like to have a few words this morning?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. I am grateful to serve and be on this board. I am also disabled myself, so I very much appreciate being able to share my own lived experience and those of my communities. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Our next order of business is public comment. Georgette.
Chairman Barclay, we do have public comments for today. We have 5 registered speakers. Our first speaker that registered for today is Ms. Patricia Fuentes. I do not see her in the audience. Our next public speaker who registered for today is Leslie Gonzalez. I do not see Leslie Gonzalez in the audience. Our next registered speaker for today is Adam Mack. Hi, how are you, Adam Mack?
Good.
Welcome. We just like, you can have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
Just be advised that you have 3 minutes
Okay.
to make your comment, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay. Okay. I would like to see Red Line train service to operate every 2 minutes during the rush hour on weekdays, AM and PM. Plus every 3 to 6 minutes during the midday and late evening hours. And then also 10 to 15 minutes during the overnight hours nightly. And then also, I would like to see live streaming videos to be everywhere. On the public transportation system. And then oh yeah, I would like to see a parking facility next to the 95th Street Red Line train station with a four-story building. Eventually, that is part of the Red Line extension project and part of the accessibility program, and also part of the new Chicago initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, buddy.
Mr. Mack, for coming, and I know you regularly attend meetings. Appreciate your comments.
Our next registered speaker is Monica Cooper. Our last public comment speaker for today is Bob Israel.
Good job. Really appreciate it. Just don't know how much I appreciate that. I be late signing up, but in third grade, I was told I'd be late for my funeral. So
Oh, yeah, I'll go back to.
Bro, just don't die here.
I won't. No problem. No problem. I just really wanted to
You start, you have 3 minutes and your time starts now.
thank you. I've been coming here regularly for years, but I just started back in December 25 and with some issues out south. It's still some issues, but I really came today to thank Steve Marbury for asking Mr. Sam Smith to reach out to me. And I want to thank Mr. Juan Pablo, that we don't see eye to eye all the time, but he made the introduction. So I just want to thank you. Want to welcome the new board member. And I just want to know who can we, first of all, I've been trying to meet with you too. So is it impossible to meet with you? I tried to meet with you. It's been 5, 6, 7 months. So, I mean, if it's possible, I'd love just to meet you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you guys, whatever y'all doing, whatever going on, but it still is some discrepancies out there and, with this red line extension. And I'm gonna just say, I met with Walsh the other day. Been knowing them 20-some years. I just want to know if we can just make sure that local community residents work on that site. That's all I'm asking. Is that asking too much, board? Yes, no, maybe? Well, I might finna die here, if you don't say nothing. I just want to make sure the guys working, man, women, children, because they need jobs. And I think violence needs a job. I'm gonna just leave that right there. Thank you.
That's question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Because you've been coming for a while and I appreciate that. Are any of these things in writing that, like anything you're talking about, is it in writing so that we can actually have it? I want to be able to take a look at what the ask is and see what we're satisfying, what we cannot satisfy, what we can work on satisfying. Because, you know, to say that I'm going to commit all of it to memory, I sometimes I forget to shave my head in the morning.
That's good.
If I have it in.
Me too. We're in the same position.
We go to the same bar.
Yep.
So, you know, if that's in writing, and I don't know if.
Are you requesting me put something in writing? Because I don't have no problem with it.
Please, can you do that?
Addressed to who?
Just send it to April. Send it to April Morgan.
Can I get April business card? Because every time I try to catch, she want to do that back door. I'm teasing it over. And then security be like, hey, don't come past these days. So I ain't want to push them out the way. So
we'll make sure you get proper information.
And I'll make sure you get something in writing. My ask. Anything else? Welcome aboard. I'm talking to you.
Thank you. President, did you also have anyone else that he should follow up with, if anything?
Yeah, he's been working very closely with my Chief of Staff, Steve Mayberry, so he'll continue to talk and hear out his concerns and we will connect.
All right, thank you.
Chairman Barclay.
Are you still scared to give us some CTA then? Come up here to the union.
Wait. Oh, sorry. No, Mr. Israel. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Director.
Chairman.
I just wanted to mention
We have one more public comment speaker. And I was incorrect. Monica Cooper is actually on the phone line. Monica Cooper is not on the phone line. She's not on the phone line. We have no more public comment speakers. Acting President Learson.
I just wanted to recognize as a follow-up to your question, Director Ortiz, the commenters and the questions that they raised leading up to comment. Staff has reached out to them. We've also spoken with Mr. Mack. We've spoken and reached out to Ms. Gonzalez about the issue that she wanted to talk about today to make sure people are having their concerns discussed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Our next item of business on the agenda is our ADA Advisory Committee report, be given by our ADA Committee Chairperson, Laura Saltzman.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Our next item of business on the agenda is our ADA Advisory Committee report, which will be given by our ADA Committee Chairperson, Laura Saltzman.
Hello, I am Laura Saltzman, the chair of the ADA Advisory Committee, and a senior policy analyst for Access Living. I will be providing a summary of the ADA Advisory Committee meeting held last month on April 13th. Randolph Williams, General Manager of Bus Operations, and Richard Porter, Vice President of Rail Station Management, presented CTA Operations' step-by-step process for handling ADA-related complaints. Complaints are received and entered in the customer service database, then forwarded to the relevant operating location and management team. The committee discussed systemic complaint patterns and trend analysis. While we appreciated the presentation, I feel that there were areas where questions that could help the committee understand areas for improvement were not clearly addressed. I understand the department has a hard job with numerous employees and countless opportunities for interaction with riders, and you can't know everything. That is why it is so important to have a good complaint process. There are times where complaints have required outside intervention to be addressed. On more than one occasion, there has been an accessibility issue flagged by multiple people with no resulting changes until I got involved using my official title, at which point those issues were suddenly attended to. That is not an equitable or effective system. It is not fair to riders, nor to the vast majority of employees who are doing what they should be doing, who would improve if given the opportunity. This is a long-standing issue. Disabled riders need progress. Given that, I sincerely appreciate programs the Planning and Innovation Department is developing, and that Acting President Learson and her advisors are taking the need to deal with this seriously. Our next presentation was from Innovation Studio updating us on 3 of their pilots. The first was on right-of-way intrusion detection pilot. One method uses AI cameras piloted at Ashland and Cicero stations, and another uses fiber optic vibration sensing on a test segment of the Forest Park Blue Line branch between Racine and Western. We then learned about 20 solar and battery-powered e-paper bus stop signs with text-to-speech capability that were deployed across the city. The preliminary rider feedback has been very positive, with over 90% of surveyed riders considering them a must-have at more stops. The committee recommended proactive outreach to organizations serving blind and low vision riders about the audio feature. The last pilot was on mitigating smoke smell on trains by installing activated carbon filters on 8 Red Line rail cars, along with real-time sensors. The committee then received an update on the automated bus lane enforcement pilot. Since enforcement began in October 2025 on the 36 Broadway and 66 Chicago routes, 6 camera-equipped buses have recorded 13,106 warnings and violations. An analysis of the 50 highest ramp deployment stops in the original pilot area showed an 18% decrease in violations from December to February. The pilot area has expanded to 19 square miles, covering an additional 500 bus stops. Next steps include expanding cameras to 94 buses and presenting outcomes to City Council presenting outcomes to City Council ahead of the December 2026 pilot expiration. Vice Chair Sarah Luna reported on topics discussed in the Wayfinding Subcommittee in March 2026. The subcommittee discussed accessibility concerns with CTA's chatbot and website, disability inclusive language and digital tools, and the lack of audible announcements on certain rail cars. The committee is prioritizing feedback on the e-paper signs and identifying concrete goals for improving station accessibility. Finally, the ADA Compliance Program Manager reported the following Q1 highlights. CTA conducted 23 ADA trainings for frontline staff, participated at Nexam's Civic Design Lab and the MOPD Summer Jobs event. CTA also partnered for a second year with the Autism Transit Project to have local youth public announcements now playing across all 8 rail lines. A new tactile bus stop sign contract was approved, covering 7,000 remaining tactile signs to be installed in the next 2 years. CTA also installed 50 additional decal tactile signs with route and direction rail information at bus stops. And of course, there was the groundbreaking for the Red Line extension, a long overdue project that will bring a new accessible train service to communities with some of the highest percentages of people with mobility disabilities in the city. Finally, the 2026 People with Disabilities Survey was launched in April and will remain open through the end of May. If you have a disability or are a PA or caregiver, please share your thoughts at www.research.net/r/CTAADA. There is also a link for it on CTA's front page, and this is accessible for screen readers, and there's also a version in Spanish. We are excited to learn that the accessibility services coordinator position was filled, with Jasmine Perez starting just this week. The committee looks forward to working with her. I'd also like to welcome Director Diego Johnson. Look forward to working with you as well. And the next ADA Advisory Committee meeting is Monday, July 13th, 2026. We appreciate the board's continued support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Any questions arising out of Ms. Osman's rule?
I can go first. Thank you so much. This was very, very helpful. No questions, but I do think that as a team, maybe it's time that we start using the feedback that you're providing and some of these concerns that are top 10 things that we want to address and make that part of our monthly briefing. So we know if there's a timeline associated with it, if we can do something or we can't do something, let's make that transparent and have that feedback loop back and forth. So it's not a one-way and goes into something that we don't know what happened next. So that would be my request moving forward. Like at least part of my briefing, I'd like to hear what those are and a timeline of what we're doing about it.
It's a great idea. I work with Ms. Saltzman directly on a lot of these subjects, and she mentioned some work happening directly from my office around the complaints issue that she's talking about that came out of our discussions. And we should regularly report on the work and the outcomes of everything she's raising here so that you understand the work being done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Director Ortiz?
No, thank you.
Director Jakes?
I have no questions.
Director Eady?
No questions.
Director Diego Johnson?
Just more comments. I plan to attend the July 13th meeting. And I would feel really grateful to be able to, like, if you could let the ADA Advisory Committee know that I will be in attendance. And I will follow up with any further information based on the survey of automated bus. I'm losing track of the
automated bus lane enforcement.
Yes, yeah. Automated bus lane enforcement. I know one of the things that I discussed in one of my briefings was just making sure that it's super important to be able to not block or have anyone parked there on the bus stops, especially, you know, where ramps are being let out. And also making sure that people who are being fined aren't part of the RAP and TAP system, who are possibly assisting other passengers with disabilities. So just making sure that there is a pretty good way to kind of be able to either appeal a fine if they were helping someone with a disability, if they did happen to quickly park there to let someone off. Within that might be more, it's harder to be able to tell if it's from a RAP or a TAP program, if it's a driver that's kind of assisting somebody as opposed to like a paratransit, right? It's pretty clear that they would not be fined or have any kind of have any kind of violations given to them. So I guess what I'm saying is I will follow up on that just to make sure. And I do think that that is really great to be, I mean, that's pretty significant. You said 13,000 violations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for that, for just having that information. Thank you.
Thank you. And really welcome your attending. I will make sure to reach out to the committee and, you know, see if folks can kind of be there afterwards to talk with you and introduce themselves. I know they look forward to meeting you as well. Related to the able enforcement, I'm wondering either if that is also a space for the customer with disabilities working group, or if maybe we can work on, and I can help facilitate this, but obviously you have your own connections to the mayor's office, but meeting with the BACP, with the department that also oversees RAPTOP from the city side, because that seems like, or, you know, and like Department of Finance, because I think that conversation is, would have to involve them as well.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Director Ricao?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Laura for the report, and I am worried about this constantly being brought to our attention, and I feel that we have not responded fully to these concerns. I am wondering, as I listen to this issue of how people with disabilities experience our system and our customer service, what is that we need to do? And I hear there are ADA trainings, and I'm wondering if the trainings alone are not being effective, if something else needs to happen, if this is more of a culture change. And I wanted just to maybe ask, starting with Laura, based on your experience and that of your committee members, do you all have recommendations, ideas on how to strengthen or modify that training or onboarding, or how to create that culture of equity, including equity towards people with disabilities?
So I think that's one of the things that we need to address is how complaints are handled and managed, and particularly with systemic issues, and particularly also with issues that people will deal with all the time, but won't necessarily always file complaints about. But I think that is where we have run into some, where I am most concerned about there being repeated issues. And I will note, CTA, this is not unique to CTA. You see this with the other transit agencies as well. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to address that, is because it's not just about the original training. If there's something that didn't, land with that training, or if someone just needs a retraining, or if there's some other issue, if we do not have a complaint process that is always dealing with that, or where there is being the proper intervention is then, sorry, the migraines, wording is not great. But if we don't deal with that at that time, that is where I think we have significant problems. Because at least if people know if they file a complaint, it will be dealt with. They are more likely to file complaints, and it's more likely to be dealt with, right?
Yes, thanks. And that worries me too, right? The fact that it sounded like people had to go through you in order to get a proper response. And that is, as you mentioned, not an equitable way of doing things. I can only imagine how much harder it is sometimes for a person with disabilities to actually even file or present the complaint itself. So it's an additional layer of barriers that we are creating. And if we want to be world-class in transportation, we want to be world-class also in how we treat people who rely on our system and sometimes are dependent. So just curious as to what's on the pipeline to address this. And I'm talking not only how to address when the issue has already happened, which is the complaint portion, which I agree needs to be more of a feedback loop type of thing. But I'm also worried, how do we not even get there? And how do we create a culture in our customer experiences where everybody who has a disability knows that they're going to have as close as an experience somebody without a disability as possible?
Yeah, and Director, I can jump in here. Certainly the expansion of the ADA dedicated staff that we have in the 2026 budget is very much with this exact issue in mind. The analysis of training and the building up and strengthening of our training around ADA issues that is informed by what we're seeing by complaints, but that is broader and more effective than what we currently have in place. We hear the same thing you're hearing, of that this is an issue that needs to be more deeply addressed. And in partnership with Laura and the ADA Advisory Committee, that's what's going to be happening with the additional staff and the attention directly from my office on this issue, particularly with complaints. There will be concrete review and outcome of this process that we'll be able to report out to the board in the coming months.
Great. Would it be possible to get that summary by the time we get the next report?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all for the questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to break protocol a little bit. My understanding that Ms. Cooper, one of our public commenters, was unable to get through because of a technicality. And so she's on the phone. Is she still holding?
She is holding.
Okay.
And Ms. Cooper, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Monica Cooper?
Hello?
Hi. Welcome to the CTA
Hello?
board meeting. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes to make your comment. Welcome to the meeting, and your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay, I applied for my spouse's, I was denied my wife Caroline McMullen's pension. I filed an appeal to the administrative board on January 29, 2005, and still haven't received a response. And I'd like a written response to my appeal. I know Miss Brown told me that I'm at the wrong board. I thought this was the right board. She said it's the CTA board. I'm supposed to be at the pension administrative board, but she said I could still address my question to this board, and that the acting president would be there at the board meeting too. So I would like to have a written response to my appeal, because it's been like over a year. It was, like I said, January 29th, 2025 that I filed the appeal. Thank you, Ms. Cooper. I know you've been in communication with our board office to make sure that we get you to the appropriate entity to respond and address to your concern. So those communications will continue to ensure that the right entity finds out about the issue that you're raising and can respond to you directly. Yes, okay. Yeah, she said that, Ms. Brown said that somebody from the pension department would contact me, so, but I wanted the president to know what's going on with the situation too. Absolutely. I appreciate you raising the issue here so that we can all hear it, and we will follow it closely to make sure you're getting coordinated with the appropriate resource. Okay. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Okay. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay. Our next item of business on the agenda is our president's report, which will be given by our acting president, Nora Lewis.
Thank you, Chairman. The focus of my remarks today will be on the incredibly important topic of safety and security of our riders and employees. I know you asked last meeting, Chairman, to get regular updates on the implementation of our security plan, and that's certainly the intent here today. Our investments and work in that area have been a major focus for the past year. And today, what I want the public, the board, and our employees to know is that there's an unprecedented amount of work occurring in this area. And we are seeing some positive trends that I want to take a few moments to highlight. Before I do that, I want to state the obvious. A positive trend or a statistic is no comfort to someone that feels uncomfortable or is a victim of a crime. And the intention of highlighting these trends is not to suggest that. But I do think it is important, given the massive investment and the focus in this area, that you receive a report on what is occurring in terms of the data on our system. As someone who's been engaged on the issues regarding CTA security for over a decade at CTA, I can tell you that the outcomes of the work over the past year as leader of this agency are the most notable I have seen in that time. The increased and meaningful deployment of security resources began over a year ago, as I've been reporting to you. We've worked in close coordination with the Chicago Police Department in a mission-based strategy that began in the spring of 2025 across the entire system, but focused specifically on the red line in the overnight hours, on the blue line in code of conduct missions, and across the system in a targeted way based on the data that we were seeing. And you'll recall that over the past year, I've mentioned notable drops, particularly on the red and blue line. And the Chicago Police Department has also publicized, beginning in the middle of last year, double-digit drops across the system as well. But what I'm here to tell you today is that the most recent numbers have indicated those positive trends have continued to notably deepen. In March, CTA committed a 75% increase in law enforcement hours on CTA. We have fulfilled that commitment already. Through our primary and foundational partnership with the Chicago Police Department, with Superintendent Snelling, with the commander of the Public Transportation Unit in Albert Osagora, and with the support of the Cook County Sheriff's Police, riders and employees are seeing an increased police presence across the bus and rail system. Those missions I've mentioned, the Transit Rider Interaction Program missions on the rail side and the bus missions on our bus side, year to date, they've taken place in over 400 missions from Chicago Police Department. Just last month, there were 84 conducted across the system. And in March, the Cook County Sheriff's Police began deploying in the afternoon to evening hours on the system as well. Throughout 2026 so far, the positive trends we saw in 2025 have continued and deepened. We are seeing a notable downward trend across overall crime and CTA, including significant decreases in serious and violent crime. And notably, the positive trends are concentrated in areas where we are specifically sending resources in a targeted, data-informed way. So I want to walk through a few specific numbers that were reported publicly by the Chicago Police Department in their most recent press release on crime across the city. Last month on CTA, serious crime across the system fell 47% when compared to the same time last year. Violent crime, which dropped 30% in March, as I told to you last month, has maintained that reduction in April, dropping 33% when compared with the same time last year. Specifically on the bus system, violent crime has reduced 64% in April when compared with last year. And what we are very intentional about is looking specifically at the impact where we're sending our targeted resources. I've mentioned the red line. We know that the red line has been a focus for the past year. We hear from employees, specifically in the overnight hours, the request for support, and we had been deploying with the Chicago Police Department and our K-9 units on the red line you've heard me talk about from Roosevelt to 95th in the overnight hours for the past year. That attention has deepened in the increased law enforcement and also being supported by the Cook County Sheriff's Police. And just as an example of how we know the work is having an impact, what I want to highlight is that from Roosevelt to 95th Street on the red line in April, serious crime has decreased over 70% when you compare it to the same time last year. This impact is what riders and employees deserve. We will continue to stay focused on this. This is a slice of April when compared to last year, but it's good news. It's good news for our riders and it's good news for our employees. I want to express gratitude to the law enforcement entities that have committed to this work. We know we're headed into summer and we need to stay very focused and continue these resources. But I really want to make sure the board and the public understand this work is real. And this work is not just an increase in numbers. This is true dynamic partnership and conversation between the law enforcement entities, the Chicago Police Department at the foundation of that work. And I want to thank them for their commitment to CTA and invite the continued support into the summer. What's so meaningful about the impact of this law enforcement, as you all know as a board, is that it is against the backdrop of unprecedented historic investment in alternative resources as well. So we have established and are continuing to establish the foundation of our law enforcement partnerships right at the time when we are about to embark in a historic launching of alternative non-law enforcement resources on CTA. So in the coming months, as you know, as a board, which you have authorized and approved, and we thank you for your support, we are going to be bringing pilots that are involving violence intervention specialists and crisis intervention specialists on the system. Right now, we are refining the location of those resources. We are refining exactly which firms we are working with on those resources. And that's going to be truly a new vision for riders that they will see on the system at the end of the summer this year. So that's layered on top of our law enforcement resources. You're going to see new resources that are designed specifically to address the dynamic and complex issues that we sometimes encounter on the system as well. And I want to just put that investment in context. 3 years ago, CTA spent less than $1 million annually on outreach and social service support on the system. This year, we have nearly $13 million laid out in our budget for this effort. And we intend to have this continue to grow in partnership with the region and with NEDA. But I want to lay that out so that you understand this is happening across several different levels of approach at CTA. And this is very intentional, and we will continue to follow the data and the feedback from riders. We won't just look at data either. We are currently developing a variety of surveys that will go out to riders and people on the system that we're encountering these resources to get feedback about their experience and what else they would like to see from CTA across all of this information. And we invite riders to seek out those surveys, to respond thoughtfully. We will take all of that information as we continue to develop our programs. We expect all of this is just the beginning, and we are continuing to engage new partners and signal that our doors are open to new approaches that will bring specialized services to the system. And the final layer I'll mention there that is not just really for fun is the arts and culture and welcoming spaces layer that we're also talking about. You have to first lay a foundation of very sophisticated resources, but once you've done that, what that does is also allow you to invite people onto the system in a more welcoming and open way. And that's why I want to thank all the staff that's put in the work to develop the Welcoming Spaces Performance Program. I am ecstatic to see it launch this summer in a new way. And thank you also for bringing the Mandala Group to the lobby today per my request, because I wanted people to also see and feel what the riders will see and feel on the system in the coming months. A few final points on ridership, as I know everyone's interested in tracking those numbers. System-wide ridership has already crossed 108 million rides over the first 4 months of the year through April, which is a nearly 3% increase over last year. The rail system has led ridership growth with 4.3% ridership growth this year, and our routes in the frequent network are averaging more than a 7% growth year over year. So continuing to send that message that where we invest, ridership is following. And of course, all of these things are intricately related in terms of creating a stronger perception of safety and security on the system. We know will also continue to invite ridership to increase. We've also seen the impacts of rising gas prices with growth in short-term fare products growing 6% in the past few weeks compared to 6 weeks ago. And I know that's of interest to people given the rising gas prices that we're looking to have people encouraged to come back onto transit in light of those costs. In closing, I want to recognize the incredible achievement of the groundbreaking of the Red Line extension, which occurred since our last meeting. We'll have a great video as part of our construction report that will chronicle that absolutely joyous day. But I want to take a moment to thank the board for their support throughout the years of funding for that project, but also over the past several months of uncertain times that we navigated, and together we navigated successfully. So thank you for your support of that project in an ongoing way, and we're excited to celebrate that further here today. And thank you and welcome to our new board member, Mrs. Diego Johnson. We're so happy to have you on the board and look forward to your expertise and contribution over the coming months. So thank you so much. And with that, that concludes my report, Chairman.
Thank you, Kristen. I want to acknowledge the continued efforts of the team and our partner agencies to address security across the board. The increased coordination and focused attention on the issue demonstrate a serious commitment to improving conditions for both our riders and our employees. It appears things are trending in the right direction, and for that, I'm pleased. At the same time, we have to recognize that safety is not measured by statistics alone. A system can be safer statistically, but if the public does not feel safe, then we still have quite a bit of work to do. As I mentioned in briefing, while it is encouraging to see this progress in certain areas, we also understand that the very real challenge around public perception and public confidence is real. The true sign of progress is when riders see it, feel it, trust it. Building that confidence is essential to growing ridership and strengthening trust in the system. And so I encourage the team to continue your efforts and your work. Changing public perception takes sustained, visible improvements and strong collaborations across agencies. So thank you to your team. Same time, I want to acknowledge the efforts of the groundbreaking ceremonies for the Red Line, which was extraordinary. Team did an excellent job of pulling that together. I also want to thank the board members that were there, that attended, and saw it in real time, the challenge that we're about to undertake, and the momentum from the community that they were excited about what we're about to do. So thank you very much for your report. At this time, I will open it up to the rest of the board for comments.
Thank you for your report. I have a couple of things I want to address very quickly. Maybe two years ago, I think, under the immediate past president, we asked for a shift in the budget for $3 million going to safety and security. So is that $3 million still baked into the budget, into the, what did you say, the 33 million? 13 million?
Yes, that's part of the 13 million I referenced. That's being spent and used in the budget. Yes.
Okay. Do we have any, and I don't know if you can answer this right now, but even if it has to be sent to me, what have we been using that 3 million for the past couple of years?
Yeah, we can break that down for you, or Tom, I know we talked about this in briefings as well, so happy to share details on that.
Yeah, happy to. And right, we shifted that funding, I think, heading into 2025, right? So it was in the 2025 budget. So we have it in a couple of areas. Most notably, we have the homeless outreach program, right? So that's funded. It was initially funded at a lower level, up to $2 million. And now it's funded higher than that because not only are we doing outreach, but we've designated shelter beds as a part of that as well. As Acting President Learson referenced, we put some initial funding. This year was shifted into alternative sources for the Safe Ride specialists and the crisis intervention specialists, initially as a pilot program. We're going to bring forward a budget amendment to this board in June, which would provide additional funding for that program so that we could expand it as well. And then a set of initiatives that range from consulting projects on sort of what are best practices and what are other things that we can look to that may have been tried in other cities, such as Philadelphia, San Francisco, New York, experiencing similar issues, and then implementation for some of those, such as the open elevator program. So that's an example of some of the sort of the bigger items that have been a part of some of those alternative security investments. As Acting President Learson said, happy to get you kind of a full comprehensive list.
Thank you. And I ask because and all of that is great. All that's great. But I'm still concerned over hearing for the past year, especially bus operators not feeling safe. And understanding that now the numbers are trending down, which I believe is due to a lot of the things going into the pot stirring the gumbo. But it sounds as if it's trending downward more recently, because of more law enforcement. That concerns me. Not the law enforcement piece, because that's what people have been calling for. It concerns me because if we know that crime tends to trend upward during the summer, which of course we hope it doesn't, but it does. And we also know that the city does not have enough law enforcement officers. Will those law enforcement officers, and I'm not asking you to answer this, I'm just kind of trying to talk it through and wonder how that looks for bus and rail, if those law enforcement officers will be pulled off of transit to be spread around the city because we don't have enough of it. If the county will say, we need you somewhere else. And then, you know, what's the plan then? You know, what's the plan moving forward? Because I just don't believe that law enforcement is a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Like I said, the data, and you said it in your report, the data is great now. But I also realize that, you know, for those who are heavily impacted by it, you know, those numbers don't mean a thing. You know, so it's just kind of talking out loud and wondering, you know, will that impact the summer with law enforcement? And you asked a question, and Tom, you asked my question about the $3 million. So that's like a comment question type of deal.
Sure. What I can tell you, and a lot of the reason I'm focused on the relationship and the partnership, is to make sure that all the commitments are made that have been committed to. They have been to date. And that comes a lot from the work of the actual people that are working with these entities. We're giving them a plan, telling them where the strategy is, the best place to go. Those relationships are very strong, Director, is what I can tell you. And so I have confidence that those commitments will maintain throughout the summer. I could not agree more that law enforcement is one component of this aspect, but it is a foundational component. And so it is something that remains a key focus. I would also just mention in the regional transition to NEDA, public safety is a primary part of the conversation. So that is another aspect here where I have always believed that attention on this issue is going to be a positive thing for our riders and our employees. So what you see happening from the governor's office and from the transition to NEDA are conversations that are new and bringing together entities across government, entities and agencies around public safety on transit. And I also think that will inform things moving and maintaining in a positive direction in a dynamic way. So there's a lot of work being done across the board, and we'll continue to keep you updated to make sure we're sustaining any achievement we have on this front.
Thank you. And also, you mentioned, and I'm glad you mentioned it, violence interrupters, because I think they are important. I appreciate seeing the unofficial journalists that on the red line that use their phones to record. And there's a lot of footage out there where violence interrupters have done a marvelous job being present in partnership with law enforcement. So I'm happy to hear that we're not ignoring them. And I like to see how we're going to utilize them even more, especially financially, because they're not free. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And you'll be hearing just next month, really, the concrete plan around violence intervention and crisis intervention specialists. It'll be coming to the board for approval. So you're going to see the amount of work that's gone into designing those programs in a really intentional way. And it's brand new for CTA. We've never had this work before on CTA. We've never run it ourselves. So I'm really proud of the team and the work that's gone into it. And it's a big step for our agency.
Will there be RFPs for them, or how is that going to?
That occurred already, that process. So Molly could speak a little bit to the process that's been underway.
Molly Poppy, Chief Planning and Innovation Officer. So we're leveraging Innovation Studio for this. So it's not a full RFP, which can take up to 18 months. So we started a process for both the community violence intervention and the crisis intervention through Innovation Studio. It started in winter, and we are going through negotiations right now. And so we do anticipate being able to have some of those on this summer. We're also looking at some, as Tom mentioned, we're looking at some of our existing contracts that we have for outreach workers and seeing how we might also be able to augment those to continue to do more support on the system.
Okay, so you're going in a file that you had.
So with the way Innovation Studio works is we put out a challenge statement and people and companies or organizations respond to. So that's what we did for the community violence intervention and the crisis intervention. So it allows us to not have super strict guidelines in the sense of this is exactly how we believe you should respond. It allows us to go to the experts and say, we have a challenge of security on the system. How do you, nonprofit that's in these communities, how do you want to address it? How do you think this works? And so it actually gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of diversity in response to how we may start to address some of these crisis challenges and some of these violence, the need for violence intervention. A lot of the organizations that responded, some of them have a lot of work in working with unhoused. Others have experience working with mental illness. Others have drug addiction support. And so I think that's really interesting that it gives us a lot of different ways to try to tackle and make sure that we're also bringing different resources, because writers need different things, and so that's really why we used Innovation Studio and leveraged it in that way.
Molly and Madam President, do we have a relationship with the Chicago Department of Public Health? Because it seems like a lot of what we're talking about, the Chicago Department of Public Health is doing. So do we shake hands with them or do we hug and kiss?
Yes, we work with the Chicago Department of Public Health in various ways. I mean, I think we built off of knowledge that they had in this area in designing this program and what we've seen occur throughout the city and how we approach this as to not reinvent the wheel, but certainly it was our own independent outreach process. We got a really strong response and a lot of people, a lot of groups offering up their services. So we got a robust response and learned a lot from other agencies' work in this area.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board? Director Eady?
Yeah, first of all, we're always glad to hear, and we've all observed about the trending in terms of the violence and all of that going in the positive direction. Very happy about that. And I'm very happy to know that there's going to be a greater emphasis utilizing the safe ride specialists and the crisis intervention specialists as well, because they're very familiar, many of them, and I've had opportunity to interact with many of them. I mentioned one group, the violence interrupters. They have that level of experience. They know how to engage the public, especially in those settings on the trains, on the platforms. And you talk about giving people a greater sense of security. I think when people see those kind of interactions in real time, it does give them to feel a little better about it. And then we were dealing with those areas of mental health, homelessness, and even gang intervention, all of that. I think that will contribute greatly to that greater sense of security and safety. So I'm very happy. And I'm certain we're going to be getting feedback directly from them. And that will help to frame what the next steps can be moving in a positive direction. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed and saying this is the direction we need to go for right now. And I'm glad that you are embracing that.
Thanks, Director. Absolutely, presence is key, and having the visibility of a dynamic set of resources is what really gives riders a sense of security. And to your point about feedback, I mentioned it, but just want to highlight again, we are implementing and designing surveys in different ways to make sure we're hearing directly from riders who may have just passed through an area with the resource that we saw to assess what they thought of it and any other feedback they have for us.
And feedback from the safe ride specialist.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That feedback as well.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. Director Diego Johnson?
Yeah, so I know a lot has been done already before me being appointed to the board. And so I'm grateful for all that work that has gone in to the board. And of course, Acting President Nearson, very happy to hear that there is more investment in alternative sources for intervention. I wonder, kind of along what Director Eady mentioned, right? For crisis intervention and violence intervention specialists and these pilot programs, I wonder how robust the ability to manage tracking and being able to have that data from them, because I think a lot of that work goes unnoticed. Oftentimes, I think statistics are really, really helpful. And also we need more statistics from other sources. There is and I'm speaking from a very systemic standpoint, I do think that being able to see trends of crime decreasing is really important. And that's why I also think we need statistics to be able to show how all these other alternative sources are also working. And from a systemic standpoint, I do have concerns over also systemically what happens when people's interactions are not working cooperatively with policing, because oftentimes we have found that police, from a systemic standpoint, can create more trauma and more like the way to have crisis intervention, the skills are possibly not there. So in the ways that it would be for someone who directly works within that area. So I do kind of want to voice that perspective too, that what recourses are out there too for people who are feeling over-policed or have experienced traumatic situations with law enforcement. I think that's also really important because of the increase that is also happening within CTA, causes some feelings of security from some people, and then causes maybe feelings of uncertainty and unsafety from other people. And so just keeping both perspectives in mind, I think is going to be really important.
Absolutely. I appreciate that contribution so much. And certainly the thought of designing my update here to make sure there's some balance between the two topics is with that in mind. And, both you and Director Eady are raising a really important aspect, which is the information we're going to get from these pilots that we've never had before about the individuals on our system, their needs, their experiences, and how we can better support them. And so when we bring these contracts to you over the next few months, we'll make sure that's a key area that we explain to you how data and information will be obtained from these providers to make sure we are using that to make thoughtful policy decisions around security on CTA. And I think that's a huge part of not just the actual resource being delivered to people, but the information we are going to get. And I really want to highlight that CTA is a leader in the region in this area. The NEDA bill lays out a transit ambassador program that will be coming in the coming years, but we did not want to wait. So the need is critical on CTA for these dynamic resources. So while they are smaller scale pilots, that's by design to make sure we're careful and thoughtful in how this is executed. But we wanted to make sure we were full steam ahead on this and didn't want to wait for any other program. So we're going to be gathering that information, informing the larger Transit Ambassador program for the region with this information. And that's absolutely the vision of all of this work. And I think we're going to have some really good discussions in the coming months as we lay out for you the actual firms we'll be working with, the information they'll be providing, and how we're going to be using it, and get your feedback on all of that.
Director Requeijo?
Yes, just wanted to start by congratulating you, Nora, and the team on the numbers and the I agree that statistics do not tell the whole story. And also I want to acknowledge how hard it was for a very long time to bring down that trend, and how that trend went up for a very, very unacceptable amount of time and is now coming down. And every number that is going down is somebody's life and somebody's body that hasn't been harmed. So I want to start with the acknowledgement of that success and that progress. And also, I want to share the concerns that I've heard from my fellow board members around the fact that so it's not only that we are changing what we do, right? Because for a long time, it's almost like a 180. For a long time, the problem was that you would show up at a train station and it was almost deserted. And there was folks operating that had some intentions that were in some cases criminal and harming people. So from that more like desolate kind of empty space, we're now bringing a lot of people into our spaces, which is great, and it's a very diverse amount of people. And now I'm expecting in a few months, you're going to be interacting with violence interrupter and or safe ride ambassador or a security person or a customer service assistance, a driver, a train operator, an artist. All of these folks are going to be surrounding or inside our spaces. And again, this is great. And I applaud the bringing more people and more community into our space. And there will be also police too, interacting with all of these elements. So to me, the question I wanted to put front and center is, how are we going to make sure, as we were discussing, that not only we're adding all these resources, but these resources share a culture that is CTA's culture, right? Once you cross that door, these are the principles, these are the values, whether you are a police officer or an artist or a violence interrupter, what's our common language? What is that interaction gonna look like? And again, diversity is positive. Diversity is to be celebrated and to be increased, but we know that diversity not properly managed and inclusion not being part of this may generate conflict instead of production. So to me, the question is, how are we starting early to work on creating that culture of coordination of all these new people, faces, styles, conflict resolution styles that are going to collide or in a way cooperate in our stations. So that's one question. We don't need to answer it today, of course, but I wanted to put it in here as we prep for that. The other issue I wanted to bring to the table in response to your report is, again, it was an amazing celebration of the Red Line extension, 60 years waiting, lots of speeches from people who acknowledge many times the deep reasons and the racial reasons behind that wait. And also I want to bring the attention not only to the celebration, but to the risk. And the risk is that while CTA has a tradition and a long history of delivering on budget and on time, what we don't want to happen 4 years from now is for us to be celebrating the opening of the stations surrounded by vacant land and vacant buildings, which in many cases is the situation today, right? So there is another layer here, which is the investment around the stations that I am worried, because one of the locations, the very location where we celebrated the groundbreaking, has been awarded being one of the ETOD sites, and yet for months they haven't received a single dollar, and that is really expensive to hold as a site for a long time. And I'm worried that we don't get that going. The development timeline of the bricks and mortar is not going to match the development timeline of the infrastructure. So I wanted to bring this to the table. I know it's not just CTA's responsibility to provide that funding, but I think there is an urgent need to start yesterday on providing capital, even activation capital, pre-development dollars for the different parcels that are going to be around those stations and that currently, in many cases, are underutilized or vacant. So just those two things for consideration, and I look forward to hear more on those next time we meet.
Thanks, Director. Absolutely, those are two very important points. With regards to the more resources on the system and coordinating those, certainly the intention also of having these pilots in these programs at a smaller scale is what you're talking about from a practical logistical standpoint, but also a cultural standpoint in terms of all staff understanding what these resources are, where they are on the system, getting practice informing people in the field about them in a way that is meaningful and that they understand it. And there's a huge opportunity to have all of our resources. When I think about our customer service assistants out in the field, our operators, people in the field that can be burdened with tasks that are beyond what really their job duties call for. A lot of the design here is to more appropriately right-size people's duties when you have the appropriate resources on the system, and that you can see people lean more into their customer service duties, lean more into making sure they're looking at the safety of operating their vehicles and not as concerned with issues that can be dealt with by other more expert resources on those topics. So that is absolutely what we're focused on in rolling this out in a really thoughtful way. And there's a huge opportunity to set a different cultural tone that we will continue to keep you updated on that work. And with Red Line Extension, absolutely the time is now and yesterday to make sure we're full steam ahead on making sure that we're facilitating and supporting with our partners the development of the areas around those stations. I've already begun those conversations since groundbreaking in a way that I feel has a different tone now that people are awakened to the reality of the true construction underway and rapidly moving. And we will continue to develop and strengthen those partnerships. I think I'd welcome giving you all regular updates on the ETOD components of that project around it, beyond just the construction. And that can be a way to make sure we're all focused and supporting all the entities involved in that way.
I welcome that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, No.
Oh, there's two of us waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you mind me?
Okay, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
I'm not going to repeat on all of this. Again, agreeing to everything. The only additional stuff that would be very helpful is a view into the journey of your pilot programs to a system-wide implementation. And I think without having, I think a lot of times when we're looking at things, we're really looking at a silo, one single view, like almost like a tunnel vision of like, this pilot is going to do this. And I think kind of like bringing a single source of truth in terms of how the pilot actually fits into the overall strategy would be super helpful, which is missing right now. And then I think somebody talked about metrics and being able to understand the contributing value. I think that's another thing is like, how are we going to measure the effectiveness of the program? And what are the metrics that is going to show the contributing value? Like the percentages that you talked about today, it was like very into having more security in the system, right? But would that 47% or the 77% grow to 85% when you have intervention in there? So how do you separate the value with the pilots? I think that is another one, right? And so the last thing I would say is having a holistic view of the program under consideration and also seeing the journey. Like, for example, the open elevator program was very exciting when we saw, but I don't know if I've seen what came out of that. Is there a plan for enterprise-wide rollout? What does cost look like for that? And the realities of the dollars we have versus where is the fund going to go? If you have 10 pilots and if you like all 10, how are you going to prioritize what we will implement and what will not, based on what? So I know that's a lot.
It all makes sense. And I think as we bring the pilots forth in the next few months, I think that can be something we begin to lay out is kind of a reminder of everything that's out there, the work we're doing as we do it to consider scalability and cost and priority in a realistic environment. So I think that's a great point to make sure we're not just kind of doing one-offs. I think also in terms of public perception and confidence, having people understand the effectiveness and where the investments are going is part of that too. So
yeah, and just one other thing, I think just moving forward with security briefings, it'll be good to have like a one-pager that says, these are the decisions being made against the pilots. Yes, no, maybe. And if it's a yes, just so we have like a clear picture where we can see like all of these things are happening, right? There's a timeline and cost associated with it. I think that's the view that's missing in terms of like the effectiveness of what we're doing. Because we want to make sure every dollar that we're spending is with the right intention, and like it's not because it's a shiny, bright idea that we want to experiment on. If there is no, if you don't see a future of that idea being holding up, we would like to know that beforehand. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for all that. I echo a lot of the comments that have been already shared, so I'll consolidate mine. I consider myself a nerd, so I value data. I know it's really hard to get data, to find the data that is accurate and really tells the story. So I appreciate the concept of qualitative and quantitative data, right? Data, hardcore data that we can look at that are numbers, and then the stories that go behind it. And I really do think we're in the right direction. So I just want to encourage that and know that it's really hard to know what you prevented. And that's honestly what we're trying to solve for. So I get that, but I do appreciate the numbers. I think we continue to look at them further. And I think we also are in the right path to looking at the stories that go along with the data to really tell a full story about the kinds of efforts that we're taking on. The second point that I wanted to make is really about the importance of culture and how we're coordinating across the different methods that we're using. And I think just really thinking through creating a culture of being welcoming will be one that could resonate very well with everyone. And just really bringing our law enforcement into that space with our violence prevention and intervention partners and having them really work together on that. It's not only the interventionists that need to understand it, it's everyone that is involved in this process. So I really want to second that. Lily, thank you for noticing that. I think so many of us feel sort of what history has done in the past and the difference that law enforcement has on different people as a whole, whether people of color, women of color, and otherwise. So I really want to focus on that concept of creating a culture that everyone is on board with, regardless of who they're coming from. They're coming from our sheriff departments, our city law enforcement, and otherwise. The other piece that I wanted to share also is that to really thinking about transit-oriented development and being able to start early. We all know that development takes a number of years to get that going. I think DOH could be a really good partner, so the city as a whole, as well as our CDFI partners, community development finance institutions. They could probably we don't have to do everything. We don't have to fund everything. We can probably kickstart a lot of things and be a good partner. And so I think our CDFI partners could really start being intentional about looking at these sites and development around these areas to really maximize our impact. Both we're doing the transit, let's help other people do the development. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win for everyone. I'm so really happy I was there at the groundbreaking and just happy to see all the stories that we've created to really make that happen. And like we said, it hasn't just been us, it's been 6 years in the making. So to everyone that has contributed along this time frame, I really want to recognize all their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the approval of the correction to the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 11, 2026. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Josh, seconded by Director Lee to approve the minutes from March 11, 2026. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Josh?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Diego Johnson?
Can I
Yes.
vote on
I should.
I think she did.
it? I abstain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Director Raquel?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'm sorry, Director Ja, I didn't hear you say yes. That's all.
It's okay.
Chairman?
Thank you. The next order of business is the approval of the correction to the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 8th, 2026. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that the board approve the regular board meeting minutes of April 8th, 2026. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Our next item on the agenda is executive session. Sister Von Baker, it's my understanding that today we do have an executive session.
Yes, we do pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 122 C21, 1 and 3.
We'll now entertain a motion to recess into executive sessions for the reasons stated by council.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady, that the board recess into executive session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Rakeo?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay, the motion passes.
I will now entertain a motion to return to open session.
Move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja and seconded by Director Eady that the board reconvene from open session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
I will note for the record that Director Jakes is returning. Director Jakes is returning to open session.
Yes, say
Is that
yes.
your vote?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll note for the record that Director Ricao has left the meeting and will not be rejoining. And the motion passes.
Thank you. We will now address board agenda item number 7, board matters. Georgette, do we have any board matters today?
Mr. Chairman, there is one board matter for consideration today to approve an ordinance fixing the salary of Lily Diego Johnson as a member of the Chicago Transit Board and appointing her to the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady to approve the ordinance fixing the salary of Lily Diego Johnson as a member of the Chicago Transit Board and appointing her to the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
The motion passes. Congratulations.
Our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Waiting for me, aren't you? Okay, I'm sorry. This is my wife sitting there texting me. I'm like, I'm in a meeting. Don't care. Should have known that 28 years later, shouldn't I? Okay. I'm a divorce lawyer. I'm seeing you.
Or your name, Barry White.
All right. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. No, then she gets half. No. The committee met earlier this morning and approved the May 13th, 2026 committee minutes and reviewed the finance report. The committee reviewed the following 3 ordinances. Review of an ordinance authorizing introduction of a bulk discount rate for 7 park and ride facilities. 2, review of an ordinance authorizing an amendment of a lease with Pullman Gateway LLC, property located at 11203 South Corliss Avenue, Chicago, for the RLE project. 3, review of an ordinance amending Ordinance 006-75, which governs rules regarding public performances on CTA property. Committee also reviewed 8 contracts. The committee placed 3 ordinances and 8 contracts on the omnibus. Committee approved and recommended for board approval 3 ordinances and 8 contracts. This concludes the report of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee. Thank you, Director Jakes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the omnibus.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady to approve the omnibus. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Diego Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
We will be deferring the construction report, and we apologize because we know you guys work hard on this, but we have a time crunch right now. So yeah, we'll make sure, even if we have to move them up to on the agenda next time, so they're not last.
Will do. Need a motion to defer.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady to defer the construction report. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay? Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Diego Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Our final order of business is new business. Georgette, is there any new business?
Mr. Chairman, there is no new business.
Since there's no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting of May 13th, 2026?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ja, seconded by Director Eady to adjourn the May 13th, 2026 meeting of the Chicago Transit Board. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Eady?
Yes.
Director Diego Johnson?
Yes.
The motion passes. 1:06 p.m.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.